Hang on here. I'd like to call the Public Works and Health and Human Services meeting to order for July 9th. Please rise and say the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We got the agenda. Is there any changes or additions to the agenda?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion? Okay. All right, all in favor, signify with aye. Opposed? All right, agenda carries. Minutes from June 4th. I got a motion. I got a motion and support. All in favor, signify with aye. Well, excuse me, any discussion? All right, all in favor, signify with aye. Opposed? All right. All right, we move on to item number 5, limited public comment. If anyone has a public comment, please come up to the podium and keep it short, please. Okay, seeing no movement. We'll move on to agency reporting. First up, we have the Conservation District.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us. We're really happy to be here today to let you know what we've been up to and give you some background. So I'm going to jump right in. There's a lot of slides, but I'm going to move through them very quickly. And I want to start from the beginning, which is where conservation districts come from for anybody who might not know. Basically, in the 1930s, during the Dust Bowl, it was a big ecological disaster and economic disaster, and the soil erosion was so bad for over 10 years that it was blowing out over Washington, D.C. into the Atlantic Ocean. Congress finally took action and created what we now know as the Natural Resource Conservation Service. But in their wisdom, they understood people were not going to want federal agents on their land telling them what to do. So with the purpose of wanting to educate landowners on how to better steward their soil and water, they went to the states and asked the states to create local units of government, conservation districts, which would be peer-led support in allowing people to have confidentiality, allowing the process to be voluntary, and get the information out to people through neighbors in how to use practices that would conserve soil and water. And so that's how conservation districts were created. We are an unfunded mandate, so we are required to exist by law, but we do not have any funding other than what we are able to get through grants and fundraising and other things. So Eaton Conservation District was founded in 1947. We have a 5-member board, all conservation districts do. It's an elected board. We just had our election last week. We have one of our board members here with us today, Paul Maluski. Our district staff, there are 4 of us. One person is very part-time. It's our bookkeeper, and she works remotely less than 10 hours a week. And then other than Sam, then there's the 3 of us. We're all here today, and we're going to each introduce what we do for the district so that you can have an idea of what's happening here in Eaton County. So I'm going to start by going back to our roots with our agriculture specialist, Natalie Halsey.
Hello. So yes, I'm Natalie Halsey. I run the MEAP program, which stands for Michigan Agriculture Environmental Assurance Program. Oh, here it goes. So this program is 100% voluntary, confidential, and free for producers. It evaluates the potential pollution risks to soil and water quality on farms and provides technical assistance for implementing like best management practices. And once all of the pollution risks are kind of like identified and mitigated, then the farms are eligible for verification after that. So in total, we have 92 farms verified in Eaton County within the MEAT program. This year, in fiscal year 25 alone, there has been 5 farms verified or re-verified in the program, all meeting goals for our 3 systems, which are farmstead, livestock, and cropping. And these 5 farms have also eliminated 49 environmental pollution risks this year. And so those kind of look like things like nutrient management practices, soil and water conservation practices like irrigation management, things like that, and then chemical storage and handling, and then general livestock and pasture management, best management practices. So that's kind of what I look at on farms. Thank you.
And I just want to follow up to that to say Natalie is a rock star. She has been with us just barely over a year, and she has consistently, the last 3 months in a row, ranked top in the state for what she is doing here in Eaton County, recognized by MDARD. So we're really lucky to have her. Next up, I want to introduce our Environmental Outreach Coordinator, Val Ryson. She conducts multiple programs, and I'm going to let her explain that.
Hi, I'm Val Ryson. I organize the district's educational outreach events and also manage several grant-funded programs. Let me go ahead and scroll down here. The Michigan Water Stewardship Program is a website that connects conservation organizations with teachers and Michigan residents to share free resources like lesson plans, upcoming events, webinars, news, and more to encourage good water stewardship practices. We reach over 20,000 residents every year through the website, social media, and outreach events. The program has historically been funded by a grant through MDARD, but it will not be renewed in 2026, so we are seeking outside funding to keep the website going. In the coming months, I will be pivoting my focus to addressing water quality concerns in the Middle Grand River watershed, and we'll do that through a grant that we were just awarded through EGLE. We were awarded close to $40,000 with an EGLE Watershed Council Support Grant. It will help us to train our staff in watershed management, GIS, and agricultural survey methods in preparation for submitting a 319 grant, which is under the Clean Water Act, to implement best management practices in the Middle Grand River watershed to reduce E. coli contamination. Our implementation grant will focus on priority sub-watersheds that were identified in our watershed management plan, primarily in the areas of Eaton Rapids and Dimondale. I also oversee the Charlotte Forest Garden project. It's a 2-acre community park. It's in the Samuel Combs Industrial Park that features native trees, shrubs, grasses, and wildflowers for wildlife habitat, as well as fruit and nut-bearing plants, herbs, and perennial vegetables that will eventually provide free food to our community. We were awarded a DNR community forestry grant for over $26,000 in November of 2024 to plant 80 trees and shrubs, create educational signs, hold community workshops to educate the public about tree care, invasive species, and forest ecosystems. We'll also be expanding the park to include a 12-acre prairie with wildflowers and grasses in partnership with Pheasants Forever. And I also manage the Eaton County Collaborative Stream Monitoring Program. It's a collaborative project between our district and the University of Olivet. We sample from 9 different stream sites throughout the Upper Thornapple River watershed in the spring and fall of each year. In the fall, we organize events where community members come to assist in collecting and identifying macroinvertebrates, which are larval aquatic insects, and it helps us to monitor the health of Eaton County streams. In the spring, Olivet students participate in a stream monitoring class, and then they complete the collection and identification alongside our community members. This program has been funded by grants through MyCorps or the Michigan Clean Water Corps. However, we are seeking outside funding to continue supporting the project into the future. Thank you.
And once again, I have to say, Val is a rock star. She successfully applied for and obtained both of the grants that support her position going into the year forward. So really grateful to have her bringing all of these great programs into the county. And so now we can talk about what I do. I'm the executive director, and I spend about half of my time doing the administrative responsibilities and managerial responsibilities of supporting the board and supporting the running of the operations. And then in the remainder of my time, I'm responsible for what we do for outreach that's not related to the grant programs. And of course, we all support each other. We all chip in where we can. So it's not like there's silos here, but for the most part, it's my responsibility to do the outreach and the fundraising. And so that brings me to the biggest thing we do, that if somebody has only heard about a conservation district once, they probably heard about our tree sale, which is our reforestation fundraiser. And so this is an annual event, goes back to the beginning of conservation districts, an effort to stabilize soil, clean water, all those other things. This year, we distributed 15,770 trees to the community, and that was a 16% over 2024. I think 2024 was a 20% increase over 2023. So we are increasing every year in being able to reach people and make these affordable trees even more accessible. And in turn, that helps support our operations. We raised about $27,000 that we can use to support our outreach and operations and my wages. One big thing that we've been working on this last year that is probably going to be taking a lot of attention in the next couple of years while we get it under control is this Ficaria verna plant. I know some of you are familiar with it because I've been talking about it for a little while. We actually just had our annual meeting and awarded the Partner of the Year award to Delta Township Parks because they have been helping us get the word out and working so hard and investing. We've had a lot of cooperation from Eaton County Parks too. They've been working really hard at Fitzgerald Park and Grand Ledge Park, and we've been, Fitzgerald and Lincoln Brick. We've been trying to support those activities. But this is a new invasive species that we're kind of ground zero for it. So all of Michigan is watching Eaton County and how we're handling it here. So we're trying to build a system for dealing with it. I had a little video here, but it didn't translate to the PDFs, just to kind of give you the vast, if you haven't seen it, you want to go out in the spring to any of the parks along the Grand River, and you'll be able to see it just carpets in the spring from the beginning of April through the end of May. There's nothing else. It's just taking over. So we're going to keep working on that. We do other outreach workshops and events. So far in 2025, and it's only July, we've hosted 31 events or co-hosted. That has reached almost 5,000 community participants. Granted, about 3,500 of that was the Conservation Carnival. For those of you who have been to that, you know what that event is all about. But that's still 1,500 people reached through programs like how to prune your fruit tree in your yard, or the children's summer science camp, things like that. We've engaged 202 volunteers so far this year for about 1,400 volunteer service hours, or 34 weeks of full-time labor. We value that at over $20,000 worth of volunteerism. So that seems valuable to us. So for fiscal year 25, by the numbers, we received $33,000 in county appropriations, which accounts for 25% of our operational budget. We received $40,000 in an operational grant from MDARD, $35,000 from our fundraising activities, and we received we expect to receive somewhere between $16,000 to $20,000 in administrative fees on the grants that we're administering. So that leaves a deficit of almost $5,000, but we were able to justify that because we did have a positive fund balance in fiscal year 24 that could cover it. So what to expect in 2026? We plan to continue our services as we have to the county. We want to shift our financial reporting towards the parks work, since that is the majority of the work that we're doing for the county. that isn't related to one of the grant programs. And we're going to need to conduct our conservation needs assessment. This is something that's required every 5 years. Last time it was done was in 2021, so next year we'll be doing that. And we'll also be recognizing our 80th anniversary, which is very exciting. One thing I want to say about the funding is basically your investment gets multiplied by 6 with our district. So when you give us $33,000, for every dollar you gave us, we brought in $6 from outside of the county. And that's not including what we're doing to support NRCS and their programming. They are 5th in the state for the number of applications that were approved for their conservation stewardship program, which amounts to, and the numbers change a little bit every day, but as of today, $593,000 for 10 contracts to residents in the county. So we're proud to be supporting that work too. And with that, I would like to invite any questions that you might have.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Rachel and Natalie and Val for your reports. And I want to tie this into Crandall Park with the MEAP program. We've had some active farming out there at the Crandall property. How important is MEAP to Crandall Lake?
I'm sorry, what was your
How
question?
important is the MEAP program to Crandall Lake?
Maybe you can come and speak to it, but it is about protecting water.
Yeah, I don't think as of right now, like Crandall Lake is MEAP verified, but I mean, in the future, I think it would provide a lot of benefits. Like we look at like chemical applications. So if they're doing any like invasive species work and want to use pesticides, we could look at that and how it might impact the water there. I mean, yeah, we could really dive into it and mitigate a lot of potential risks, I suppose. So
That's what I wanted you to get into was the pesticides, herbicides, that kind of thing in our water. I know that Sue Spagnola was adamant that we have, rather than organic farming out there, we have MEAP certified farm out there. And what the potential impact of not monitoring that MEAP program around that body of water, because it's right there central to our county, and how important it is to showcase that to people that MEAP really works.
yeah, I think that would be super important. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, there have been conversations in the past with parks directors, so once there's a new park director in place, we can start that conversation again.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner.
As a follow-up to what Brian just asked, what about Fox Park? That's our county land. There's farming all around Fox Park as well.
Yeah, I would think that we could do a review of all of the parks, see where the risks are, and take them one at a time. I mean, they would all have their,
Health department, body tests for any bacteria or anything that would be harmful to swimmers and on the beach and stuff. Just wondering about the farm down there, follow up what Brian said.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's something that we would have to dive into. You know, it starts with a risk assessment. So Natalie would go out to each of these locations, walk around, ask a list of questions, and see where the risks are, and then focus on how do we mitigate those risks.
I have so you said 5 farms are being renewed, right?
Yeah, so
So, well, what's the timeline? Is that every 5 years or every 10, 5 years?
exactly, yep.
Okay,
So yeah, once you complete the verification, then it's good for 5 years, and then you have to get re-verified essentially.
okay. And then the one other question I have, it's sort of statement, we was talking about looking for funding for some of the water. Do you work with the Tri-County Regional Planning and Zoning? Because they have a pretty robust water program and stuff. I was just wondering if, you could work with them to maybe see about getting funding for,
Yeah, they've been great partners. They're on our steering committee for the new Eagle Grant.
Okay.
They don't tend to have a lot of funding for us, but we have partnered on getting funding. So I think as we look towards the future of that grant, of that program, we're going to be floating different ideas. We're kind of packaging the proposal at this time.
okay, good, good.
Thank you
Yes,
for the
yes.
suggestion.
I just thought about something else too, because I remembered what happened yesterday. I was crossing the Waverly Road Bridge over in, Lansing, but it's not Lansing, it's Lansing Township.
Yeah.
Okay, but on the, west side is, awful on the Grand River. Have you seen it? It's like total green. Now,
Right
on, yes.
Because I know because I live very close to there, and the Lesser Celandine is completely taken over that area. But right now, I'm not sure what green you're,
I don't know, it's like covered all the way down past the
are
cemetery.
you talking about the?
The water.
Oh, the water itself.
Yeah, you were talking about water testing and you had people from Olivet in there. That might be an interesting spot. Because if you go on the east side, where the boat club is and stuff, that doesn't have any. So I don't know what's happening on the actual bridge to create a situation here where it's like I don't know if the water's not moving, I don't know, but I just happened to look over there and it's a mess. So, and one of our Delta parks, backs up to there on Lansing Road by Waldemar, Anderson Park. So it's all down through there.
Right.
I don't know, just asking.
Yeah, we haven't tested anything in that area. I know I'm reading a lot about how Lake Erie is kind of the focal point for this algae bloom situation, but the legacy phosphorus that is being brought up, regardless of what's being applied, there's so much phosphorus already in the soil that we need to find ways to mitigate that may be contributing, because it's an issue all over the state, but Lake Erie is kind of getting the most attention for it right now.
Well, Muskegon County went non-phosphorus years ago. So,
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, I mean, we need to figure out how we can both support our, the
Ecosystem.
yields on the farms and also protect our water. So that's what we're here to do.
Anyway, okay, thank you.
Christensen?
Thank you. Thanks, Rachel, for coming and presenting this morning. So I may be out of the loop, but I have a question. You were showing the slide with the greens and the little yellow flowers. What is that all about? Because I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, it's brand new to Michigan. It's called Lesser Celandine, and it's a spring ephemeral, and it spreads very easily because it gets these tiny little bulblets on it, which are kind of like seeds, but they look like BBs. And if you walk through it, it'll stick to your shoes. If your pets run through it, it'll stick in their paws, or deer, or whatever. And so, and what's really the biggest problem is that it's growing along the river. And so those bubblets are dropping in the river and then going downstream. And when there's a flood, it gets into the floodplains. And when the flood recedes, it's been planted.
So it's very invasive.
Very invasive, yes. And when I've talked to people all over the country, mostly on the East Coast, like in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and they all say this is the absolute worst. Out of all of the invasive species, it's just the hardest to deal with because it's got a very short season. If you don't kill it within this 2-week period, you've lost your chance. You've got to wait until next year. And meanwhile, it's reproducing exponentially.
So how do you try to get rid of it?
There's a 2-week period once it starts blooming, but before those bubblets are created, you've got about 2 weeks. And if you hit it with 3% glyphosate at that time, it will kill the tuber and kill the plant, and it won't reproduce. So the last couple of years, we've been focusing on just trying to get a handle on where it is to survey, and really grateful for all of our parks partners because they have also been taking the extra step of treating when they're able to. So they've done a great job.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, yes, Commissioner.
Rachel, related to Nicole's question, where did this stuff come from and why is it so bad?
It's from Europe. It was brought here as an ornamental. It may still be sold in the store. It's not illegal to sell it. Thankfully, because it's such a short-lived plant, I think it's lost popularity, so people aren't really planting it like they used to because it's dead and gone by the end of May. So it's not really fun to plant in your yard. But it's the reason, I'm not sure are you asking why is it so bad because of the nature of the plant itself or what kind of threat is it doing?
Well, what kind of threat? Yeah.
Okay, so the threat is that it comes up before our native spring ephemerals and it creates this mat which prevents them from coming up. And so it's truly like a carpet if you go see where it has really infiltrated. So things like trilliums, spring beauties, Dutchman breeches, those quintessential Michigan spring ephemerals that are rare. Some of them are on the endangered list. That's what's at threat. That's what's being threatened because it's preventing them from growing.
Okay, so it does not need a moving body of water to be spread. It just likes that area apparently.
Yeah, it just moves really easily that way, but if it's in your lawn and you hit it with a lawnmower, we've had residents who have sent us pictures of their lawn being completely taken over by it. And man, if you think dandelions are bad, you do not want that in your lawn.
All right, thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Yes, yes, Commissioner.
Rachel, so if you spray it, is it a Roundup kind of product you're talking about? How do you do that without destroying everything else that's around it?
Well, that's the problem. So when we're talking about those sensitive areas in the woods where it's threatening the trilliums, that 2-week period is timed just before those things are coming up. So usually if you get out there on time, you can kill that stuff before our spring ephemerals will be popping up. But if it's in your grass, we applied for a grant with the DNR and we didn't get it last year because there was just other things that were more pressing. They said any other year you guys would have gotten this, please apply again next year. So we will probably apply again next year. And the idea is that not only do we want to survey to find out where it's at and treat it, but also we want to do some more research because there's not a lot of information, even from other states. There is actually no best management practice established for this plant yet. I think because it doesn't threaten agriculture, there just hasn't been the investment in it. So we would use that grant money to do some research to find more ways to treat it. So far, we're using the recommendation from Morton Arboretum, and that was the glyphosate. But we think that there's probably other ways to treat it with other chemical, concoctions, especially so that you don't have to kill your lawn. Because if you're doing that in your lawn, you're going to lose your grass.
Things that would kill one thing, but not everything else.
Right, right.
That might be a good project for MSU, since it's our land-grant college.
Right, yes, through our application, we established a partnership with MSU and with Grand Valley State because they also have, there's a lot of this in Grand Rapids too, we've discovered. So yeah, we're bringing in partners from all throughout the area, all different expertise to kind of contribute their talents.
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Next, we have construction codes. Well, in planning and zoning, of course, but.
I am here because Chairman Barber gave Mr. Garrison permission to only come every other month, so here I am. Our planning and zoning contract is currently under review with the attorney. The Controller's Office has been working with our attorney to get it updated. I believe we expect to have a final contract to be able to share with the townships by the end of the week. In addition to our report, we did receive 2 PA 116 applications last week, which were considered by the Planning Commission last night. One property was in Eaton Rapids Township for Land MC LLC, requesting to put 77.17 acres within the PA 116 program. The other one was in, excuse me, Bellevue Township, that is 81.96 acres, proposed to go into the PA 116 program. The Planning Commission recommended approval of both applications. The Planning Commission heard requests by Mr. and Mrs. Young for a small engine repair business, Crandall Trucking for a new surface mine, and Aaron Troush for a construction contractor's establishment at last evening's meeting, and all three requests were approved.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. All right, moving on to recycling, or the DIA.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have a few updates and a resolution for today. Updates, most importantly, we are a month away from Recyclepalooza. We are looking at, again, expanding registration, and since we've reduced events to be more mindful of administrative cost, we've been really pushing to increase event participation, and we do have, last month I said I would have vendor numbers from our May event, the spring cleanup event, and I'm very happy to say that with our event participation up, we actually increased our hazardous waste collection by about 45%. And our electronics were up about 23% year over year from previous years. So what we're doing is working. So we're looking forward to our August 9th event and helping the people of Eaton County dispose of their materials. So, and we'll be working on placing an ad with Logan Bailey, passing out flyers, and doing social media promotions for the event next month. And a few other updates before the resolution. With our hub and spoke model, we've been collecting materials from all around the county, including Calhoun County, and we are ready to send out a load. So we're looking at selling peat number ones and cardboard, and hopefully we're looking at something around $8,000 to $10,000 in revenue. So we're working on data. We actually met with material brokers and purchasers, and we actually had people from Malaysia out to Sunfield Recycling Center, if you believe it, to purchase materials from us. So all the way from Malaysia. And we discussed, they're interested in styrofoam and styrofoam densifiers, and so we've been working on the feasibility of that for the county. We've been continuing our summer education programs. And finally, the materials management plan, we are working with Eagle and their approval process. It was officially, the MMP work program was officially submitted last month. After preliminary review from Christina Miller and the Materials Management Division, everything looked good to them, and it's going on further to their analysts. And we anticipate in about 4 weeks, we should see a grant contract. The committee, MMPC committee, we are looking at moving forward with some of the work, so looking at demographic work, working with haulers, so we do have Waste Management and Granger on our committee, and we are going to reach out to Republic to start getting more data on waste diversion, recycling, trash, and organics that are moving throughout the county. And we also had Eagle at our committee meeting yesterday to answer any questions. So Jeff Kirschmerich, who used to run the department here, he's in charge of infrastructure grants at Eagle. So And he was very impressed with what he saw yesterday at our committee, and he looks forward to working with us in the future. And finally, a discussion about our local projects, the Solid Waste Alternatives Grant. As some of you know, and some of you may not know, I am new here since last February 2024. And when I got to the department, we had a lot of legacy issues, I'm sure, with some of the other departments here. And so I was asked to look at all of our programs, all of our projects, evaluate them, and then with the new materials management plan, again, it's the rewriting of our solid waste plan. There's going to be a lot of new compliance issues with recycling facilities, transfer facilities, and other solid waste management. And so working with Eagle and the committee, we're looking at restructuring some of our programs to meet the needs of the community and remain in compliance. And with our loss of allocation of the general fund, the department is looking at just focusing on its core programs. So that's our events, that's our collection programs. We do countywide battery recycling, string light collections, fluorescent collections, amongst other hard to recycle resources. And so last year there were discussions with the recycling working group, the controller's office, some of the commissioners, and there's been a lot of discussion over the years about the SWAG program. And over the years, the SWAG program, which started in 1995, has done incredible work. It's distributed over $3.5 million to Eaton County communities and recycling centers. And our most recent numbers, we're looking at diversions of up to 2,500 tons a year in materials. So that includes organics, plastics, metals, paper, and however, after years of review, and with our loss of allocation for the general fund, the program is really no longer viable. And working with the recycling working group, historically, we found that the programs were becoming increasingly inefficient. So we do analyses of dollar amount per tonnage diverted or dollar amount per tonnage recycled. And when we do our evaluations of all of our programs within the grant, we saw drastically declining numbers throughout the years, indicating increasing inefficiencies with how these materials are being diverted and recycled. So I was asked to really look at this in the last year. I've spent quite a bit of time. We went out last year in August and December and in February again to talk to a lot of our SWAG recipients, indicating after the election, if the millage does not pass, we may lose our general fund allocation and the program is at risk of closing. And in our discussions with the grantees, all of this information from the MMP to restructuring to closing the program has been disclosed over the last year to the grantees. And what I'm asking today is a formal resolution to close the program. And this isn't a permanent closing of the program. We are looking at in the future what we can fund, and really what we're looking at is infrastructure in order to be state and federal compliant. Eagle's really looking at funding infrastructure projects that will be compliant with the new laws. And so the department is looking towards working with Eagle and applying for these infrastructure grants with local communities in order to build out some of these centers that we need here in the county and contribute to the hub and spoke model. So with the closing of the program, the department will be able to focus on restructuring, maintaining core services, making sure there's no disruption in services and projects and programs for the next few fiscal years. And in addition to that, my salary, 60% of my salary will be on the MMP planning grant in order to make room in our budget for that restructuring. And so, in conclusion, the department, we've been doing a lot of work. We want to focus on being budget neutral for the general fund. Again, we are funded through the Solid Waste Ordinance of 1993. And in order to remain budget neutral, something like this, we believe, has to be done. And are there any questions?
Any questions on his report, not this resolution? Because then we'll get a motion and a support and then open up for discussion on the resolution. So is there any questions on his initial report? Okay, then with that being said, do I have a motion and a second for his resolution to discontinue the solid waste?
So moved.
So moved? And I got a support. So now I open it up for discussion. Yes, Commissioner.
We've talked recently, you said that the amount that is taken in hasn't been increased from our waste haulers per resident parcel since it was initiated. And I don't know if you've had time yet to look at maybe a 15, 20 cent per month increase to see countywide what that would do for your budget, but that was just one of my ideas so that you could have the department flourish the way that you have envisioned and include these new rules from the state of Michigan. So just putting that out there. I know you've probably been busy, but just sometime down in the future, because if it hasn't been increased, I'm thinking it's reasonable.
Yeah, thank you. We are operating on largely $1993. It hasn't gone up. And the original, Claudine and I, we've been going through a lot of the history of the program, and we found back in 1995, there was a surplus of money, and so the SWAG program was created through surplus funds, which we no longer have. So, like you stated, if we look at, I do have an analysis of different increases for the surcharge and what that would mean for the department's budget. And so if something like that is addressed and we do have those funds available again, we would really like to support communities with funding for programs and looking at building out some of the infrastructure we're going to need to be compliant.
Now that we have a communications person, we can let the residents and the businesses know why it now needs to be increased and what the benefit would be down the line once you get a plan.
Right, yep.
So that would be good,
Mm-hmm.
'cause we want recycling.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. So, what's going to happen with all this? Will certain recycling centers around the county just close? What do you think is going to happen to the existing operations without this funding?
Well, currently, when we went around and discussed, some local communities were more engaging with us than others and wanted to work with us and find solutions. And so we've continued to work with those communities. Bellevue, Olivet, we're working on maintaining operations there once their grant goes away, but they're under contract with Republic, so we're gonna work with them on figuring out their contract, but we would like to continue services. We started a pilot program there in December. We started last year taking our trailer there. And so after initial pushback from the community, because we separate all the plastics and before it was everything all in one bin, we're collecting a lot of materials and Debbie Penfield, our recycling guru here. She is a part of the community down there and knows a lot of the locals. And then Eaton Rapids, we're looking to continue. We've been working with Eaton Rapids. Marcus from Delta Township, Marcus Kirkpatrick for the Delta Township Recycling Center. They are on the Materials Management Planning Committee, so they're going to be have a front seat in what's going on with the new state laws. And also Kara Quinn Underwood, the director of the Charlotte Area Recycling Authority. She's also on the committee. So she's included in all the discussions about what's going on in terms of the MMP, the Materials Management Plan, and funding. And Sunfield Recycling Center is operated by the county. We do not know. We need to speak further with Delta Township and Grand Ledge to see what they're doing, but we're working with the communities that are engaging with us to see how we can make this transition work. So we're hoping we're not going to disrupt very much services, and these centers are going to stay open, and these programs will stay open.
So what's your vision for the department and the services without this funding? Or are you looking for another source of funding that we could be more directly financially supportive of the communities, or you have a vision of doing it more centrally?
Yes, so we are looking at the hub and spoke model where we'll have a central hub here in Charlotte. And the idea would be we need to not only be compliant, but we want to try to offer lower cost services, lower cost of living. So we want to look at how we can support people in their waste and recycling efforts. So our main focus, I think, for the department, one of our main focuses is hard to recycle or dispose of items. And so, for example, at our events, we have household hazardous waste and electronics. This year, we're going to be starting a rural electronics program where we're going to be helping people collect electronics because it's not best practice to throw those into the landfill. So we think with the county programs focusing on hazardous waste, electronics, and subsidizing those costs for the community will be really important. In our discussions with haulers, so we have 9 licensed haulers in the county. All of them keep telling us we need education, education, education. Like when I ask them, how can the department support your operations? For example, if there's too much contamination in a recycling bin, it'll all go to the landfill, and haulers don't want to do that. They want to do a good job. They care about these programs too, and so they would love to see the department spend more time and money on education for the residents here, especially with curbside recycling and what is and isn't allowed. And looking at, in the future, hub and spoke model, we would love to have centers from all around the county feeding into a central location. And we are looking at, we do take, Calhoun County pays us to take materials, and then we sell their materials. So we're looking at those sorts of agreements too. But the material sales, ideally, if we can get our material sales up, that'll really help with additional funding for the department and hopefully self-fund some operations. And then a little bit different from previous years with the department, we are going to start looking at sponsorships. So sponsorships for some of our events to reduce cost, and hopefully with sponsorships, material sales, and applying for more grants, we'll be able to provide all the services that we intend to. But again, going forward, we will be focusing on the hub and spoke model, education, and hard to recycle and dispose of items. And so that's our plan.
It sounds very manageable, instead of trying to do all these things all over the place. pick a few things that you actually can affect, you know? And education, I think, there's lots of things we do here in the county that the communities don't know about. And so anywhere there's a chance for doing some of that broadly, I think is a really high priority. So thanks. Good job.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner.
I think too, once we get through these budget issues and conclude next year's budget, that maybe Logan also can help with the for putting out the educational opportunities and things like that, you know, like articles in the county journal and, you know, Facebook articles and Delta, Talk of the Town, whatever, in the smaller communities, to get out the information so we don't have spoiled bins and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I really look forward to working with Logan, and actually Deb Molesky from Eaton Rapids, she's on our committee too, and she writes for the County Journal, and we were just
Oh,
talking
okay.
yesterday about,
How to get information.
yeah, highlighting some of the work we do. I think, just to give you an idea, last month, we did almost 50,000 pounds in hazardous waste and electronics diversion, which very few people know about outside of this room and our department. So it's something we're very proud of.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. That's to approve this resolution. So, all in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution passes. Thank you very much. Next, we move on to number 9, Parks and Rec. Claudine, are you?
Yep,
Oh.
Ethan, the Deputy Parks Director. is here to
Okay.
do that report. And Chad Powers is here as well.
Good morning.
Morning.
So since the departure of our director, Chad Powers and Claudine Williams has been meeting with us regularly up at the Parks office. So far, everything is running smoothly. Our summer camp started on June 5th. That is moving ahead as planned. We have 4 weeks left of that. Coming up in July, on July 23rd, we will be partnering with the Grand Ledge Library and Relief Michigan to hold an event out at Lincoln Brick Park where Relief will come, kind of explain all about what their program is, and then individuals can go out into the park and see if they can find one of the biggest trees that will then be uploaded into a database. Our summer storybook strolls are up at Lincoln Brick Park and Fitzgerald Park. This Friday, we have a service day planned with the youth facilities. And then our Lincoln Brick Park Nature Center renovations are moving forward. That being said, the interactive monitors that have been ordered are on back order. So we're working with smart homes, smart offices to get those here as soon as possible. But last I heard, it will be another 2 weeks for those parts to come in before we can get that installation scheduled. And then this weekend, we also have our Ledges Car Show. We're expecting a pretty big turnout for that. All the planning for that has gone really well. And then July 29th, we will be participating in the Charlotte Library Summer in the Park series. We'll be heading down to Oak Park to do a couple different naturalist lessons with them. And then we are starting to get supplies around for our autumn olive and honeysuckle removal. So autumn olive and honeysuckle, they're a pretty invasive shrub that we have all throughout our parks, including Crandall, Lincoln Brick, and Fitzgerald. And the goal is to start treating that now and kind of continue that into the fall. And the way that works, we'll cut off the shrubs, we apply an herbicide to the stump, that then goes down into the roots and kills the rest of the plant. And then hopefully in the spring, and this will be a yearly occurrence, but by doing that, the seed bank in our parks can start to regenerate, and hopefully we'll see more of those native plants that we all like to see. For operations, on July 7th, the construction of the Fitzgerald Park stairs started. I'll let Chad talk a little bit more about that. And then we have filled our building and groundskeeper position. as well as our Parks Foreman position. So for all intents and purposes, we are staffed up. And then Fox Park and Optimist Park storm cleanup. Fox Park, for the most part, is completely cleaned up at this point. There's still some sections of trail that need to be cleared, and that is the same for Optimist Park. All the things that were on the roads have been removed, all the widowmakers are gone, and any trees that may have been leaning and posing a risk to the public have been dealt with. Any questions?
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ethan. So you said the storm cleanup at Fox Park and Optimus Park. So everything, you can go completely north to south on, at Fox Park. There are no more trails blocked?
No, there are still, the initial storm a few years ago, that trail is still blocked. But to my knowledge, there have been members from the mountain biking group going out and clearing trails where they can. And then Chad can also elaborate on
Okay.
that as well. So.
All right, thank you. Then I'll wait for Chad to come to the podium.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chad.
I'll start right there with you, Commissioner. So the storms we had, I think it was mid to late May, where that, I don't know if that was a tornado that time or whatever, but the storm path went right over Optimus Park and continued right to Fox Park. So those two parks had substantial damage, wind damage, down trees that literally closed the parks. That was quite an effort to get those just opened back up. So for normal traffic, not in the trails, just in and out of the park. So that was completed. We had volunteer groups assisted with that. As Ethan mentioned, the mountain biking team, and also we had some local volunteers just asked if they could help clean up. It was pretty substantial, the amount of giant beech trees, 4 foot around, that just snapped off like toothpicks. So that was the initial storm of 23 that ravaged a lot of our other parks. Is still in the process. We were working with a forester to get some log values for some of them things, and we expect to have that, I saw an email the other day from them, later this month. We're working with the forester to get logging proposals to redeem some of those costs that we lost with those trees.
All right, thank you.
No other questions?
And just to expand on what Ethan started to say, the construction of the Fitzgerald Stairs, that is ongoing, started this week. The 2 positions that we had, one was a new position, the groundskeeper foreman, and the second one, that position was filled early June. The second one was a resignation of a groundskeeper, a maintenance and buildings and groundskeeper. And we were able to fill that with a seasonal quite quickly within a week there. And then the only other thing I had to add was I'm working with engineering firms, civil engineering firms, on proposals for Crandall Lake, the Flanders Road entrance, as well as the expansion of Fitzgerald Park Drive. I expect to have more information and hopefully a contract next month for you guys to approve.
Okay. Any question? Yes, Commissioner.
Chad, I was out to the park here a week ago Saturday, Fitzgerald, and we were looking around, and by the stairs, there was it's all dug up by the sledding hill, those stairs. And it also goes across the pathway. Are they putting some kind of drain in there or something?
So that's part of the wastewater treatment project with the city. And I think we have a map that I could share with you that shows the footprint of that project. It does extend from the river back to the west towards the sledding hill and back to their storage facilities that are west of there.
Oh, so that's why the pathways are
Correct.
closed, right?
Correct.
And tore up, okay. Because we looked at the sign, you know, of where the pathways were supposed to be, and we're going, this sign is not right at the moment.
Right. Yeah. And in fact, we're meeting this afternoon with the city of Grand Ledge to talk about some of this, how it's going to impact and what we need to do to work around this project.
So we're still gonna, once you put the steps in, then you're gonna put a path, a cement path, right? So you can get down to that little island.
So the steps are on the more easterly.
Oh, they're over by the other pavilion.
Yes.
Oh, on the main pathway.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So you're not doing anything with the steps on the sliding hill?
Not currently, no.
Not currently.
We're hoping, and that we'll have those conversations with the city, but initially, we were optimistic about using the sledding hill for the next several years. This project's gonna go on for some time. So the first few years is the renovation and expansion of the plant, which is along the river, and then the next phase of it would expand over and to the sledding hill area. But in the first part of it, we're expecting to use the sledding hill for some time yet.
So once it's completed, we won't have the sledding hill?
Not at that location.
How are we gonna get to the island? That little island down there in the ledges? The one where
Well-
people go down to fish?
That's what we're working on, how to reroute that, because that's gonna eventually be part of the wastewater footprint. Hopefully, we can still utilize that drive to get down there. It wouldn't be the sledding hill access, it would be the same way you access it now,
Okay.
from the drive.
Okay, I'll watch the continuing construction project for you.
Okay, I'm sure you will.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we got is the lease. Jim, would you?
I just wanted to bring this back up because I think it needs to be revisited and talked about. I know last meeting there was discussion about it and some concerns, and then I think it landed on like a 4-year agreement. But after looking over this, I just don't think that serves either party well because of the lease or of the millage term that is up in 7 years. It only makes sense that this term that we have with the lease ends at that time to reevaluate at that time, depending on if the millage gets renewed or not. So that's the only reason. I think that needs to be discussed a little further and take a look at this.
Do we have any questions? Or, because we approved at the last meeting, we approved 4 years with a, because that was, I might be a little wrong here, but that's the projected completion of the wastewater project, I thought. And that was a concern on your part, Brian, is that, that's why your concern is that we would extend the mill, like the lease was going to be for 7 years originally, and then your concern is that what's it look like after that 4 years of that project? So, but I don't recall in the lease that we approved, what was the extension? Did we have 1-year extensions in it, or to get us out to that 7 years, because we wouldn't want to extend it for another 4 years, and then that would have took us outside of what the millage renewal time was.
You didn't talk about any extensions. You just approved it for 4 years and then took out, if the language about if the millage is renewed, blah, 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 that stuff was all struck out. It was just for 4 years.
I think part of the issue was the uncertainty of the location of where construction was gonna be and all that kind of stuff. And I think, I don't know, I've seen some maps since then, it's really not gonna, be a problem as far as the park goes. I mean, there's gonna be some traffic, but I think there was some understanding that was gonna really interrupt what was going on in the park. But I don't see, as far as the maps that I saw, that it's going to affect anything that, and in 4 years, that anything is going to be different. So that.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Well, yes, Commissioner Mott, that is the presumption. Remains to be seen, but that is the presumption. But my other concern with this was that additional drive that had been talked about, that went up to the east side, southeast side of the existing parking lots, towards the office. And whether that was gonna be something that was gonna be maintained, and I mean, there was a lot of variables in that, I thought. I mean, my original recommendation was to not renew a lease at all until the construction was completed. But I understand what's going on here, so I don't have as much opposition to this rewriting of the lease. I am still concerned about the impact of construction on the park as a whole and how it will disrupt whatever functions are there.
Well, as Chad mentioned, we do have a meeting with Grand Ledge this afternoon. I talked to the city manager yesterday. He was here for another meeting about how, this is a 3-year project. We want to set up a line of communication. We want to meet regularly if that's an option, so that we can all stay, as partners and collaborative on this project as much as possible, so we all know what's going on. And our park staff are there every day. So for our park staff to even help them with the contractors, if they're outside of where they're supposed to be, try and help enforce a little bit the contractors that are there, so.
Okay.
Yes, Commissioner.
Ryan, is there any kind of recommended language that we could use that would show there's a little bit more control over that process that would make you comfortable? I mean, could the lease be changed so that we had more specifics about that?
I'm sure there is a way to modify the lease to address those things. The thing that I'm still concerned about are all the variables that we don't have control over, and that is the construction traffic and the time period, that sort of thing. My concern for that additional drive is, I mean, when you talk about the lease for the park, everyone's assumption is that we lease that entire park, and we don't. The footprint of our lease is actually pretty limited. So much of what's going to happen in this park is not even in that area that we do lease, but we are responsible for maintaining the areas outside of our lease footprint. So that was my concern, is that we're going to be responsible for some things that we're not leasing and we don't have any control over, but we're going to be there to take care of those items. So, I mean, the sledding hill, the bridge, the dock, all that stuff, where the water treatment facility is, I can't see any access to that in the next during that 3-year construction period. But that, if you look at the line, the cutoff line, that's really not within our lease footprint. So anyway, I mean, they want to lease. There's some wording that was taken out or struck out that I would put back in. That's the word shall. I mean, in a lease agreement, a shall is a definite, a will is a variable. But anyway, this is greatly reduced from what it was in the previously. So those are my concerns.
Yes, Commissioner.
Jim, are you asking us to do something today, or do we need to bring this up again for some?
Well, in the original agreement, lease agreement, it's for 7 years. And that 7 years takes us up to the point of where the renewal would have to go back out to the public for the park, or for the, parks millage. And so, and that only makes sense to me to go that distance. And I don't even know if if it goes back to Grand Ledge, what they would even want to do that, just go to the 4 years. So to me, it only makes sense that we just go to the deadline of the millage, and then the millage determines whether we continue or not.
today for this meeting, for our particular group here, do you want us to do something? Or other than talk about this, or understand your point of view?
Well, the last month, it was determined to be 4 years. That was, I think, Commissioner Christensen proposed that, and that was voted on and passed. So my recommendation is that we go back to the original and do for the remaining 7 years, so it aligns with the millage.
Are you making a motion about that?
I'm not on the board. I'm not on this committee.
I mean, are you looking for that today?
My powers are limited.
Are you looking for that today? Are we?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, not to override you, but if it's easier, I can rescind my original motion or amend it and withdraw it, if that helps, and we can start back at square one.
I mean, would you want one of us to make a motion?
We should just.
I think they could make a new motion.
Is that what you would do? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I would move that we go from 4 to 7 years, however you want to
Okay.
describe that.
So I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, then we got,
7. But at that point, if it doesn't pass, there's going to be another set of discussion.
the Parks millage.
Yes,
If the
if
Parks
Parks
millage
millage doesn't pass,
yes.
I don't know that I'll be here, but I'll be discussing one way or the other.
Okay, is there any other further discussion?
I have one more thing.
Yes.
I mean, it just seems to me that one of the broader goals here is just to have better communication and coordination with one of our local partners. I mean, broadly across the county for lots of things. So you can't always put that in writing. Sometimes you have to have trust and you have to have relationships. So I see that this is one of those circumstances where that's probably going to be what controls a lot of the outcome of this, is just having good communication and knowing each other. And like I said, we need that for a number of different programs and things we have in the county. So I see that this, that's one way to kind of support their success for the future.
Well, I would like to caveat on that and say that we've been operating without a lease agreement with them for several years now, and there's not a big issue, that is come up. So there's already some mutual trust built, and I think this would just further that trust along.
I mean, I just think that shows that that is a priority of ours, is to have strong communication with our local partners like that.
Okay, so we got a motion and support. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries. And then we're moving on to the Community Parks Grant. Which one of you was going to speak on that?
Connie's pointing at me, so. If you recall correctly, Mr. Gillespie, who is a City of Grand Ledge council member, came and spoke under public comment last month about the reconsideration of a community grant application that was not awarded in the last round. It is for J.C. Park. Their application is included in the packet for you to look at. It is an ADA compliant park. It was not approved as a recommended project through the scoring committee, but it has been brought back up for consideration for this group. If you would like to reconsider it and award it, then it would go to Ways and Means for budget amendment out of the parks budget, and there is enough money in there to cover the cost of it. The original concern with the project was there was not enough confirmed financial support for the project when the scoring committee looked at it. The match funding they had from other grants, those have been secured now. So now there is adequate confirmed match funding for the project. So that's why they're requesting us to look at it again, because of those changes.
All right. Yes, Commissioner.
So I have a question, Claudine. I don't know if it would be you to answer it or who. At that point in time, when we were looking this stuff over, what was it, 150?
It's 150.
Okay. Is it still 150?
Yes.
Or, because I know they've been taking donations and such.
Yes, it's still 150.
Okay.
So do you want us to do something today, or do we have to wait?
Right, so the request would be to reconsider this application and send it to Ways and Means for an amendment to fund the project, if you so wish.
So we just, yes,
Well, I mean, we meet tomorrow, the Parks Group.
Yes.
Meet tomorrow, but it seems to me that, the city of Grand Ledge has done a lot of legwork to find funding for this, and if this final 150,000 is all they need to really be able to kind of push us over the finishing line, I think that it's not a huge amount of money to us, but it would be to them. And I think that in the spirit of cooperation and trust and things like that, what I just talked about, that we should go ahead and approve, or whatever the terminology is, that we should increase, or we should award the 150,000 to City of Grand Ledge.
Second.
okay, so I got a motion to support. Do I have any other discussion?
I think that it's a good project, and that just from our parks that we've opened up Eaton County-wise, with no admissions, our parks are filling up, and this is just another park in Eaton County, I think that's going to be very beneficial to all sorts of individuals.
And I would like to stress that the fund balance in the parks has well enough money to cover this.
Correct.
And that, so, yes, Commissioner.
I was just going to say, I also sit on that committee, and originally I was all about backing this and supporting it. And the only thing that gave me a no vote at that time was the fact that the funding was not secure. Because I felt there were other parks that could have used it if they didn't get the full funding. Totally support the fact that they've got it secure, and I think that'll be a huge asset to the Grand Ledge community and the surrounding communities.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and support on the floor. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. Got miscellaneous, anything in the miscellaneous?
No, sir.
Okay. And then we move on to limited public comments. If anyone would like to make a public comment, please come up to the podium and keep it semi-short.
No, I can't do it short. Keith Mulder, City of Grand Ledge Mayor. I appreciate your reconsideration on our J.C. Park funding. Just to bring you up to speed, we're at, as of yesterday, $1,026,000, I think, was the number that we had secured. That's taken the last 3 months, I think, when we started this project. We had a pre-bid meeting last week for the infrastructure portions of the sidewalks, the ground, the earth moving and all that stuff. That bid will get awarded the 17th of July, I believe it is, when we open bids. So my point is, thank you very much, number one. Number two, communication. Going back to the sewer plant and all those kinds of things, communication is critical. And sometimes we don't do a very good job, sometimes you don't do a very good job, but let's work on it and let's keep the lines of communication open. And that being said, if you ever need to call somebody, I'm readily available. Sometimes I don't answer depending on who pops up, but feel free to always call me, and I can get it through the bureaucracy, Connie, because there is a lot of that out there. So, thank you very much.
Anybody else like to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, then when's the next meeting? August, yeah, yes, correct, August. It would be August the 6th. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn till the next meeting on August the 6th. All right, we are adjourned.